magkakapi sa hamon ng buhay, di ba magaling? Ako ang iyong masamang kaibigan sa ating kapamamayan. Magkasangga tayo, magkasangga, magkakapi, magkasangga, magkakapi.
Ang programang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Ito ay ang bagong food supplement na gawa sa mga piling gulay at prutas at dumaan sa isang masusing proseso para mapangalagaan ang inyong kalusugan. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay ito sa inyo para sa kalusugan ng ating tiyan, tulungan ng pagkuha ng sapat na nutrisyon at ang pagpapalabas sa ating sistema ng mga nakakasirang toxins. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may iba't ibang disenyo at sangkap base sa inyong pangangailangan. Mula sa boost para sa mga bata, fortitude, boosted weight, miracle fruit, periwinkle, at ang pinakabago, liver pro. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may pagmamalaki na produktong gawa sa Taiwan. Ito ay mabibili sa Dashen, Beta Road, San Sebastian, Phase 3, Binauganan, Tarlac City. At para sa mga malalayong lugar, mabibili din ang produkto ng Equilibrium Probiotics sa Lazada. Ito ay eksklusibong gawa ni Ginang Malu Reyes Nure. Ano pang hinihintay niyo, mga kasangga? Hala, bili na! Ang program MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. Magandang umaga po, mga kasangga. Today is July 18, 2023. Araw ng Martes. Araw po ng Martes. At so far, kanina pong madaling araw hindi na po masyadong nag-uulan dito sa bahagi ng Barangay Maligaya. At malamang hindi na po muna mag-uulan ngayong araw. Sana po, no? Sana, pero parang may bagong bagyong papasok na naman po tayo Kaya kahit ganun po mag-iingat na lang po mga kasangga na nanonood sa ating TikTok Live at sa ating MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Magandang umaga po kay Mike Canlas, no? Si Mike Canlas nanonood. Good morning. Bago po natin simulan ang ating news reading, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal naming lumikha, maraming salamat po sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob ninyo sa amin at sa mapayapang gabing lumipas at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway pagkaloob mo pa po sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ng kasamaan at manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at sa pagsunod sa inyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawain namin, inaalay namin sa iyong anak na si Jesus, na aming Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. Good morning po ulit. At welcome po sa ating daily dose of news, ang MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Naghahatid po ng mga nagbabagang balita sa naganap sa loob at labas ng ating bansa. Sa loob lamang po ng 30 minutos, best effort. At ito po yung ating mga summary. Ito po yung summary ng ating mga top news for today. Galing po sa Philippine Star. LTFRB sets contingency plans for strike. Pump prices up 2 pesos 10 centavos for diesel and 1 peso 90 centavos for gas. May time pa po yung mga iba na magpakarga bago po mag-alas 6 na umaga. DOJ Chief reiterates ICC not welcome here. And for our global stories, New Zealand calls on China to curb tensions in contested Pacific. For regional stories, Quezon City opens bazaar to raise funds for tutoring program. COA, 3.7 billion Dalian trains remain idle. Raps Ag versus Comelec excess over 700 million peso cash advances. And finally, in sports, Gilas girls dominant from start to finish. On with our top story. The top story is brought to you by Equilibrium Probiotics. Please scan the QR code to get more information about Equilibrium Probiotics. LTFRB sets contingency plans for strike. Report by Gio Ong and Bella Carriazo to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board Chairman Teofilo Guadis III yesterday gave assurance that contingency plans are in place for the 3-day transport strike starting July 24, which will coincide with President Marcos's second State of the Nation address, or SONA. At the same time, Guadis said the strike only aims to embarrass the president. Yes, it is meant to embarrass the government at the time the president will have his SONA, he confirmed. The LTFRB chief also belittled the mobilization of transport group Manibela, saying only 2,000 jeepneys are expected to participate in the 3-day strike, as the so-called Magnificent Seven, or the biggest transport groups, will not join. Based on the headcount last Friday on who will be and who will not be joining the strike will be focused only in Metro Manila, and as far as the Visayas and Mindanao are concerned, zero. No one is joining the strike. For Luzon, we are looking at Region 4 as a possible area where there could possibly be a small degree of participants, but it's very insignificant, he added. Manibela President Mar Valbuena has told the Star the transport strike would paralyze transportation in Metro Manila and other provinces, adding that only Marcos would stop them. Rescue buses will be deployed during the 3-day strike to assist stranded commuters, according to Gladys. We have our dialogue with bus operators. We have ample vehicles during the strike. We asked the Philippine National Police to help us in the deployment as well as the maintenance of peace and order in areas where there are potential troubles, he said. He added that the PNP and the LTFRB are ready to implement these contingencies. There may be situations where jeepney drivers will be forced to join. There will be stone throwing and even use of spikes, Guadi said. He added that during the last transport strike of Manibela last March 6, only 8.7% of jeepney drivers participated in the National Capital Region. That is why we are not that much concerned about the strike. But nevertheless, we are taking all necessary precautions, Guadi said, adding that 8.7% numbered 1,100 to 2,000 jeepneys. He disclosed that based on the dialogue with the seven biggest associations, their members will not join the transport strike. Most of the members have expressed to work on these dates for the reason that for these jeepney drivers, every day counts, the LTFRB chief said. He added that most of the expected routes to be affected are in Quezon City. About two or three significant routes in Quezon City will be affected. The same routes that were affected during the last strike. I think it's just history repeating itself. Based on their strength, these routes are in Quezon City, one of them in Balita, which I am keenly watching right now, Wadi said. 2 weeks ago, before they announced the strike, I had a dialogue with the president of Manivela, and to my surprise, he declared a strike. We always extended our hand to them, and in fact, I tried to reach out to him to forego their strike, since the very reason for their strike is really non existent. They are afraid of phase out. There is no such thing as phase out of jeepneys nationwide, he added. During the meeting with Balbuena, the LTFRB chief gave assurance that the agency will gradually address the issues the group raised. It was a very cordial meeting. We were discussing the complaints of Manibela, and I have expressed my desire to address these concerns, though I have to admit to him that I cannot address all of them on time, Guadi said. Moving on to our top story, pump prices up, 2 pesos 10 centavos for diesel, 1 peso 90 centavos for gas. Report by Richmond Mercurio to the Philippine Star. And this news update is brought to you by the Shed Cafe. Manila, Philippines. Oil companies are raising pump prices today, with gasoline and kerosene up by nearly 2 pesos per liter and diesel by more than 2 pesos per liter. In separate advisories yesterday, oil firms said the price of gasoline would go up by 1 peso 90 centavos per liter, kerosene by 1 peso and 80 centavos per liter, and diesel by 2 pesos and 10 centavos per liter. The adjustments will take effect in the morning for most companies except for Clean Fuel and Caltex, which will implement price movements at 4:01 p.m. and 12:01 a.m. respectively. This week's domestic pump price adjustments, which reflect movement in the international oil market, are the second consecutive week of price hikes for diesel and kerosene. The rise in global oil prices during last week's trading was attributed to market reactions to Saudi Arabia's commitment to cut production by 1 million barrels per day this month, according to the Department of Energy. Last week, oil firms reduced the price of gasoline by 20 centavos per liter, while prices of diesel and kerosene were raised by 75 centavos per liter and 50 centavos per liter, respectively. These price adjustments resulted in a year-to-date net decrease of 2 peso and 95 centavos per liter for diesel and 5 pesos 50 centavos per liter for gasoline for kerosene. Data from the DOE showed gasoline, on the other hand, has a year-to-date net increase of 5 peso and 65 centavos per liter. Moving on to our next top story, DOJ chief reiterates ICC not welcome here. Report by Neil Jason Cervantes to the Philippine Star. The next top story is brought to you by Hidden Vietnam. DOJ chief reiterates ICC not welcome here. Court rules today on Philippines appeal versus drug war probe, Manila, Philippines. While the government's litigation team expects the International Criminal Court to decide today to send prosecutors to investigate alleged abuses in the conduct of the Duterte administration's war on drugs, the Department of Justice, or DOJ, is determined to stop the ICC from gathering evidence on Philippine soil. They are to do nothing of the sort here. They have no relevance here. What will they do? Invade us like we're just some colony again? That's over. Enough is enough. We're a free country with this justice system. Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla told reporters yesterday ahead of the ICC Appeals Chamber's verdict. The Office of the Solicitor General is appealing an ICC decision to allow its prosecutors to investigate the drug-related killings committed by authorities during Duterte's presidency and when he was mayor of Davao City. In a statement issued on July 16, Solicitor General Menardo Guevara said that if the government's appeal is denied, ICC prosecutor Karim Khan, who is handling the case for the International Tribunal, and his team would have the authority to resume their investigation. There is no further appeal available to the Philippine government. Depending on the evidence he may be able to gather, the ICC prosecutor may seek the issuance of summonses or warrants of arrest against certain individuals. These persons who may be indicted will have to engage their own defense counsels, Guevara said. The OSG only represents the state. An ICC pretrial chamber earlier approved an inquiry into the alleged extrajudicial killings of suspected drug offenders, saying the killings appear to constitute crimes against humanity. The pretrial chamber also maintained that cases that may arise from the probe appear to fall within the court's decision. However, the probe was suspended in November 2021 upon the request of the Duterte administration. In September last year, ICC prosecutors led by Khan prodded the pretrial chamber of PTC to order the resumption of its drug war probe, citing several areas where the Marcos administration had fallen short in justifying a deferral. The OSG then submitted last September 8 its response to the PTC's request for comment on why the investigation should not resume, which hinges on three arguments: the ICC's lack of jurisdiction over the Philippines, the drug war's inadmissibility on account of the Rome Statutes Article 17, and the complementary principle in international law. Capability doubted. Locking horns with the government's top litigators, the ICC prosecutors said these arguments were not backed by strong evidence that would convince the ICC of the Philippines' capability to resolve the cases of alleged abuses on its own. For one, Khan wrote the government and its investigating agencies failed to demonstrate in its September 8 submission any past or ongoing national proceedings that could match the quality of investigation being readied by the ICC. Aside from the Philippine National Police, the Administrative Order 35 Task Force, an interagency committee chaired by the Justice Secretary, is tackling unsolved cases of political violence, whether through EGKs, enforced disappearances, torture, and other human rights violations. In its submission to the PTC, the Marcos administration, represented by the OSG, maintained the absence of the ICC's jurisdiction over the Philippines and that the drug war killings from July 2016 to March 2019, as well as the Davao region between 2011 and 2016, when Duterte was mayor of Davao City, do not constitute crimes against humanity. In 2018, then President Duterte withdrew the Philippines from the Rome Statute, the treaty that formed the ICC, after the ICC announced that it would conduct a preliminary examination on its drug crackdown. President Marcos earlier decided to stay out of the ICC. After Khan made a petition to resume the ICC probe last year, the Marcos administration opted to seek out the counter-arguments of the ICC prosecutors against the Philippines' attempt to stop the investigation of the drug war killings, claiming there was already nothing the government could do to change Khan's mind about launching an investigation. Guevara said whether the government loses or wins its appeal, the Philippine authorities would continue focusing on their own investigation and prosecution of the killings. The Philippine government will defend and assert the sovereignty of the Republic at all times, he added. For his part, Remulla made clear authorities would not cooperate with ICC prosecutors who would be requiring government documents and interviews to gather enough evidence to prosecute Duterte administration officials. They are not welcome in the Philippines, Remulla reiterated. We will not allow their investigation because we have our own justice system, traditions, police, prosecution, and courts. They cannot encroach or trample on our authority. The DOJ secretary added that the ICC should instead turn its focus on nations embroiled in chaos and lawlessness. The ICC should be functioning instead in countries that have no justice system or those embroiled in conflict like Sudan as of now, nations where no law governs the people. That's where you're needed, not in countries with stable systems like the Philippines, he added. Duterte's controversial crackdown on drugs has resulted in the arrest of over 300,000 drug suspects since June of 2016. Latest government data show 6,235 drug suspects killed in reported shootouts with police. But activists and human rights groups believe thousands more may have been killed execution style by security forces and vigilantes. Good morning, admin. Moving on to our global update. New Zealand calls on China to curb tensions in contested Pacific. Report by Agence France Press to the Philippine Star. Wellington, New Zealand. New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins urged China on Monday to help curb tensions in a more contested, less predictable Pacific and to preserve access to critical trade routes. China is rapidly expanding its diplomatic, economic, and military footprint in the Pacific, often jostling for influence with the United States and its allies. Nearly half of New Zealand's trade passes through the South China Sea, said Hipkins, who led a trade delegation to Beijing last month and met with President Xi Jinping. The way China exerts its clout in the world is a major driver in escalating strategic competition, especially in the Asia Pacific. Hipkins told the China Business Summit in Auckland. Unimpeded access to shipping and air routes was vital to New Zealand, he added. New Zealand is concerned about worsening a strategic environment and rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific region, in particular in places like the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait, the Prime Minister said. We have direct interest in these areas and are therefore focused on the need for tensions to be carefully managed and de-escalated in the wider interest of the Pacific, he continued. And we look to China to play its part in this regard. China has in recent years ramped up military and diplomatic pressure on Taiwan, which it claims as its territory, vowing to take it one day by force if necessary. Beijing also maintains sweeping contested claims over the South China Sea. At the same time, China is seeking to grow its influence in the South Pacific, notably making inroads in Solomon Islands, with which it signed a secretive defense pact last year. This month, China rolled out the red carpet for pro-Beijing Solomon's Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare and inked a raft of deals, including one allowing it to extend its police presence in the island nation until 2025. Wellington has been increasingly vocal in recent years about human rights issues in China and any potential militarization of the Pacific. Hipkins and New Zealand said New Zealand would talk candidly but respectfully with China's leadership about their differences. Our region is becoming more contested, less predictable, and less secure, he said. In this increasingly complex global environment, our relationship with China will continue to require careful management. Wellington's Western allies have long been concerned about what they regard as New Zealand's overdependence on trade with China. But Hipkins said New Zealand's exporters now enjoy better terms of trade in other equally significant markets after striking free trade agreements with Britain, the European Union, and a major trans-Pacific trade bloc. Moving on to our regional stories, top stories. Quezon City opens bazaar to raise funds for tutoring program. Report by Elizabeth Marcelo to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The Quezon City government yesterday opened a bazaar to raise funding for its learning and recovery initiatives, which include a tutoring program to reduce non-readers and non-numerates children by providing them additional academic assistance. Launched at the Quezon City Hall lobby, the Kilos QC, Kilos Store ng Bayan, tulong para sa kinabukasan, offers a wide array of pre-loved and never-been-used merchandise that will be up for sale to City Hall employees and the public. The activity was spearheaded by the Mayor's Office, City Hall, Small Business and Cooperatives Development Promotions Office, as well as the Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability Department. Proceeds from the bazaar will go to the QC Learning Recovery Fund, a repository for cash donations intended for city's public schools. Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte said the Learning Recovery Program is part of the local government's whole of society approach to address the education crisis. Belmonte cited the 2022 report of the World Bank, which estimated that 9 out of 10 children in the Philippines aged 10 are unable to read and understand a simple text. A crisis of this magnitude requires all stakeholders to focus on prioritizing the needs and interests of our children. We have to immediately address this crisis as it will adversely affect our economy and the future of the next generation, Belmonte said. She said the bazaar would encourage reuse and recycling of textiles and other items which can help reduce world waste pollution. The bazaar features items sold in two categories: by the kilo, in which the price is determined based on the total weight of the pre-loved items, and by individual price, which individuals items that have never been used and are still in excellent condition. For more information about the bazaar or how to donate pre-loved items, contact the SBC DPO. To learn more about the Quezon City Learning Recovery, email them at education@quezoncity.gov.ph. Next on our top local stories, original headlines, COA 3.7 billion Dalian trains remain idle, report by Elizabeth Marcelo to the Philippine Star. Al Bandong, good morning. Manila, Philippines. 48 light rail vehicles or LRVs amounting to 3.759 billion pesos procured by the Department of Transportation from a Chinese company in 2014, supposedly to expand the capacity of the Metro Rail Transit Line 3 or MRT3, remain unoperational, according to the Commission on Audit, COA. In its 2022 annual audit report on the DOTR, the COA said the transportation agency entered into a deal with Dalian Locomotive and Rolling Stock Company of China, now known as China Railway Rolling Stock Corp. Dalian Company Limited, on January 24, 2014 for the supply and delivery of LRVs under the MRT3 capacity expansion projects. Under the contract, the delivery of the LRVs was to be carried out from February 26, 2014 to January 2017. The contract was part of the CAPEX projects, which aim to expand the MRT3 capacity to 800,000 passengers per day. The COA noted that as of end 2022, only 9 out of the 48 LRVs have been provisionally accepted from Dalian pending their overall and final inspection. The 39 other LRVs have yet to undergo testing and commissioning. State accepted LRVs do still need wheel through and were therefore assessed as non-functional. The Dalian trains procured 8 years ago remain idle and not operational due to non-completion of the proposed way forward plan, as well as the testing, commissioning, and final acceptance of the LRVs, thereby depriving the riding public of the benefits of a more comfortable transportation system, the audit report read. Finally, on our regional stories, Raps I versus Comelec excess over 700 million peso cash advances, report by Mayan J. Malen to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The Commission on Elections is considering filing criminal charges against Comelec officials over unliquidated cash advances amounting to 700 million pesos in connection with the May 2022 elections, an official disclosed yesterday. According to COMELEC spokesman John Rex Laudianco, demand letters have been sent requiring the poll officers to submit the necessary documents or face charges. They need to submit documents for the cash advances made during the last elections, Laudianco said in a press briefing. Otherwise, we will withhold their salaries and benefits or we will file complaints against them, he added. The Commission on Audit recently called out the COMELEC for failing to liquidate some 200 billion pesos in cash advances. Of the amount, Laudianco said the full body had liquidated 1.3 billion peso as of July 12. He said a large portion of the remaining 700 million peso unliquidated cash advances was spent for the honoraria of the electoral boards as well as training and accommodations. Part of the unliquidated cash advances, Laudianco said, was used for the conduct of command conferences, payment of gasoline, and transport of election materials used for the 2022 general elections. Laudianco expressed optimism that the involved COMELEC officials would be able to submit the documents required by the COA. We will make sure that the cash advances are accounted for, he said. And finally, topping our news stories for today, in sports, Gilas girls dominant from start to finish, report by John Bryant Ulanday to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Gilas Pilipinas girls completed their redemption tour, trouncing Iran in the finals 83-60 to roll the FIBA U16 Women's Asia Championship Division B via clean sweep yesterday at the Prince Hamza Hall in Amman, Jordan. The Filipinas wiped out the competition in 5 matches to clinch a much-coveted promotion to the Elite Division A after falling short in the last edition. Neva Smith rifled in 21 points on 5 triples in only 21 minutes of play. with Ava Pardo and Ariel Star de la O adding 12 and 10 points respectively. Alisa Palma protected the paint with 11 rebounds and 2 blocks plus 8 points. Last year, Gilas topped the elimination round but exited in the semifinals after a stunning loss against eventual Division B winner Samoa and settled for the bronze medal. That lit a fire on the Nationals in a sweet vengeance, this time by dominating all their opponents in blowout victories. Gilas drubbed Hong Kong 79-40, Maldives 144-22, and host Jordan 106-58 in the prelims before clobbering Malaysia 79-44 in the semifinal. Gilas averaged an absurd winning margin of 53.4 points per game to stamp its class in Division B and jump to Division A, featuring reigning champion Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Chinese Taipei, South Korea, China, and Samoa. Australia just escaped past Japan 80-74 to win its third straight Division A title as Syria bowed to Samoa 50-72 in the classification match for relegation to Division B. And that concludes our top stories for today. Again, here is the summary of our top stories. LTFRB sets contingency plans for strike. Pump prices up. 2 peso 10 centavos for diesel and 1 peso 90 centavos for gas. DOJ chief reiterates ICC not welcome here. New Zealand calls on China to curb tensions in contested Pacific. Quezon City opens bazaar to raise funds for tutoring program. COA, 3.7 billion peso. Dalian trains remain idle. Raps Eye versus Comelec XX over 700 million peso cash advances. And finally in sports, Gilas girls dominant from start to finish. At maraming salamat po sa mga nakatabay ngayon. Kay Paul Andrew David. Thank you, Paul, for joining me this morning. And thanks, admin, for sharing the link to all our group chats. Time check, it's 6:16 a.m. Public service announcement lang po muna tayo. MSB will have its first magkasangga para sa AITA Play for a Cause Badminton Tournament on July 29, 2023 at the Smash Point Sports Center in Sunrise Subdivision, Barangay Maliwalo, Tarlac City. Proceeds of the Play for a Cause will go to the projects being undertaken by UCCP Sitio Socorro, Ito po ay yung first aid station na kanilang pinapagawa. First aid station / nutrition center. And meron po ongoing na feeding program para po sa mga kabataan, mga Aita Milen na kabataan ng Sitio Socorro. Ito po ay matatagpuan sa Barangay Moriones sa bayan ng San Jose, Tarlac. Matagal na pong ginagawa yung mga proyekto doon ng UCCP, pero naging fascinating pa po ni Pastor Bienvenido Torres, na napakasipag po na pastor ng UCCP. At suportado po siya ng kanilang conference minister na si Dionisio Sanchez. So sila po yung tag team, nagtag team to, nagtutulungan para may pamahagi po yung kailangan tulong sa mga nangangailangan, lalo-lalo na po sa mga kabataan ng Sitio Socorro. At it so happens, so meron po kasi isang Aita community, ito po yung mga Aita Bilen, na Aita Abilen na doon nakatira din. Malapit po sa simbahan ng UCCP. At meron po silang tribal council doon. Sila po yung nagtutulong-tulong. Kung ano man po yung mga pinapagawa ni Pastor Bien, suportado po ito ng mga tribal community, ng mga tribal leaders. So sila po mismo yung kumikilos, sila po mismo yung kung may mga construction na kailangan gawin, yun po yung ambag nila. No? So hindi na po kinakailangan gumastos ng labor para doon sa mga kinakailangan gawin doon sa lugar. Kasi sila rin po naman ang makikinabang sa lahat ng mga pinapagawa ng UCCP. So please po join the Magkasangga para sa Aita Play for a Cause Badminton Tournament on July 29. Please visit the Facebook page of Flashpoint Sports Center para po makita niyo yung mga detalye. No? Nandun po lahat yung detalye. Pakiscan lang po itong ating QR code and it will bring you directly to the Facebook page of Smashpoint Sports Center. So, yan lang po muna at ipapasalamat po kami sa lahat po ng mga umantabay ngayong umagang ito, mga friends natin sa TikTok. Thanks for joining me this morning. Thank you, Alma Cabiso, si Ice Yoshi. Okay, thank you for joining me this morning. We have a poll that needs answering. Maybe you could help me with my poll. Pakitulungan na lang po ako sa text poll natin. It's currently turned on. And I will allow a few minutes for you to respond to it. Good morning, Albandong. Hi, Kuya. Good AM po. Pakisagutan lang po, for those who are now joining me in TikTok, I have a current poll that I've set up. Pakisagutan lang po because I need it for a seminar that I'll be conducting. So, mas malaking tulong po para sa akin kung masasagutan po ninyo yung ating poll na naka-post ngayon sa TikTok. Okay, so dyan po tayo nagtatapos sa ating programa dito sa Facebook page. Maraming salamat po.